Dr. Mina Park pressed her face against the cold metal of the observation window. Stars stretched across the darkness like scattered diamonds. She had always loved looking at space, even as a child back on Earth. Now, at 34 years old, she was farther from home than any human had ever traveled. The research ship Harmony's Edge moved slowly through the void. Its mission was simple: find new life and make peaceful contact. Mina was the team's lead scientist. She studied alien biology and knew 7 Earth languages. What most people didn't know was that she had once sung opera in Seoul before becoming a scientist. Captain Jin-Ho Kim walked up behind her. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair at his temples. "Nervous about tomorrow?" he asked. "A little," Mina admitted. "We've been tracking their signals for 3 months. Tomorrow we finally meet them." The aliens called themselves the Vorthak. Their messages had been brief but clear. They wanted to meet humanity. They said they were explorers just like humans. They spoke of sharing knowledge and building friendship between their peoples. "Get some rest," Captain Kim said. "History starts tomorrow." Mina nodded and headed to her small quarters. She sat on her narrow bed and picked up a small device that played music. Her grandmother's voice filled the room, singing an old Korean lullaby. The words spoke of children sleeping safely while their mothers watched over them. Mina had listened to this song every night since leaving Earth. The next morning came quickly. The crew gathered on the bridge as a massive ship appeared on their screens. The Vorthak vessel was 3 times larger than Harmony's Edge. Its surface was black and smooth with no visible windows or markings. "Incoming transmission," said Officer Hana Lim from her station. The main screen flickered. A tall figure appeared before them. The being looked somewhat like a human, but its skin was pale gray and its eyes were completely black. It wore dark robes that seemed to move like liquid. "I am Overlord Thex of the Vorthak Empire," the creature said. Its voice was cold and empty. "We have come to evaluate your species." Captain Kim stepped forward. "Welcome, Overlord Thex. I am Captain Jin-Ho Kim of the human vessel Harmony's Edge. We're honored to meet you." The alien tilted its head. "Honor. An interesting concept. Tell me, humans, what do you know of memory?" The question seemed strange. "Memory is how we remember the past," Captain Kim replied. "It helps us learn and grow." "Indeed," Thex said. "Memory is the foundation of existence. Without memory, a species has no past, no identity, no proof they ever lived. We Vorthak have perfected the art of memory." Warning lights suddenly began flashing on the bridge. Officer Lim looked up from her controls with wide eyes. "Captain, they're scanning us. The readings are off the charts." "What kind of scan?" "Captain," Kim demanded. "I've never seen anything like it," Lim said. "It's not just reading our ship. It's reading our DNA, our brain patterns, even our memories." On the screen, Overlord Thex smiled, but the expression was cold and terrible. "We are not explorers humans, we are collectors. For 10,000 years we have traveled the galaxy finding species like yours. Species that think they matter. Species that believe their little lives have meaning." "What do you want from us?" Captain Kim asked, though fear was growing in his voice. "Nothing," Thex replied. "We want to take everything. Your DNA, your memories, your history, your very existence. We will erase humanity completely. No trace will remain. It will be as if you never existed at all." The bridge fell silent except for the humming of machines. Mina felt her heart racing. "You can't just delete an entire species," she said. "Can't we?" Thex laughed. "We have done this to over 3,000 civilizations. The Kalari, the Zunith, the Morvani. Do you know these names? Of course not, because they no longer exist. We erased them so completely that no one in the galaxy remembers they ever lived." "But why?" Mina asked. "What's the point?" "Because we can," Thex said simply. "Because existence is suffering, and we end that suffering. Because the universe is too crowded with meaningless voices." Captain Kim moved to his command chair. "All hands battle stations. he announced over the ship's communication system. Thex laughed again. Your weapons cannot harm us, human. Our ships are protected by the same technology that erases species. Your bullets and energy beams will simply cease to exist before they reach us. The Harmony's edge shook as invisible forces began tearing at its hull. Sparks flew from control panels, the lights flickered. Beginning erasure protocol, Thex announced. In 1 hour, humanity will be gone forever. Mina watched her crewmates frantically trying to save their ship. Officer Lim worked desperately at her station. Captain Kim shouted orders. Engineer Teho Park tried to restore power, but she could see it was hopeless. Their enemy was too advanced, too powerful. She thought of her grandmother's lullaby. She thought of Earth, with its blue skies and green forests. She thought of every human who had ever lived, loved, laughed, and dreamed. All of it was about to disappear forever. But then something occurred to her. The Vorthak were erasing DNA and memories and physical matter. But what about something deeper? What about the things that couldn't be touched or measured? Mina closed her eyes and began to sing. Her voice rose clear and strong above the noise of the dying ship. She sang her grandmother's lullaby in Korean, the words flowing like water. The melody was simple but beautiful, full of love and comfort. On the screen, Overlord Thex stopped talking, his black eyes fixed on Mina with surprise. The other crew members turned to look at her. Even as their ship was being destroyed around them, they listened to her song. Officer Lim stopped typing. Captain Kim lowered his hands. Engineer Park set down his tools. Mina sang louder, pouring all her love for humanity into the ancient words. She sang about mothers protecting their children. She sang about hope surviving in the darkest times. She sang about the bonds that connect all living things. The ship's speakers picked up her voice and broadcast it throughout the vessel. Then somehow the signal spread beyond their ship. It traveled through subspace, carried by quantum frequencies that the Vorthak couldn't control. On the enemy ship, something strange happened. Some of the Vorthak soldiers began to slow down. They turned toward the sound of Mina's voice with confusion in their black eyes. What is this? Thex demanded. Stop that noise. But Mina kept singing. Even as the ship broke apart around her, even as the erasure beam reached her body, she sang. Her voice became the last human sound in the universe. The Harmony's edge exploded in a flash of light. Silence returned to space. But deep in the quantum foam that underlies all reality, something new had been born. Mina's lullaby continued to echo, carrying with it the essence of everything human. Love, hope, memory, and dreams, all wrapped in a simple song about children sleeping safely in their mother's arms. The Vorthak had erased humanity's body, but they had not touched its soul. And that soul sang on, waiting to be heard again. 3 months had passed since the Vorthak Empire began their work. Earth was gone. Not destroyed, but erased completely. The blue planet with its white clouds and green lands had never existed. The moon, the space stations, the colonies on Mars, all removed from reality itself. Every human being who had ever lived was deleted from the universe. Their DNA, their fingerprints, their photographs, their writings, everything vanished. Even the memories of humans in alien minds were wiped clean. To the galaxy, humanity had never been born. The Vorthak were very good at their job. They had done this 3,000 times before. Their quantum erasure technology could remove any trace of a species from existence. It was perfect, clean, and final. But something was wrong. Commander Vex of the Vorthak Third Fleet woke up screaming. He sat up in his metal bed, cold sweat covering his gray skin. The dream had come again. A woman with dark hair was singing in a language he didn't recognize. The melody was soft and gentle, like something a mother might sing to her child. The strange thing was that Vex had never had a mother. Vorthak were grown in machines. They didn't have families or children or songs. Yet somehow he knew this was a lullaby. Vex pressed a button on his wall. Medical report to quarters 774, he said. Dr. Zal arrived within minutes. She was old for a Vorthak, with lines around her black eyes. Another dream, Commander? The same one, Vex said. The singing woman. But that's impossible. We erased their entire species 3 months ago. There are no humans left. The medical scans show nothing wrong with your brain, Dr. Zal said. But she looked troubled. However, you're not the only one. The reports are coming in from across the fleet. Hundreds of our people are having similar dreams. What kind of dreams? Always the same. A human woman singing. The song is always in their old language, Korean. Some soldiers report seeing other humans too. Men, women, children. They appear in the dreams and tell stories about their lives. Vex felt a chill run down his spine. That's impossible. We removed every trace of them. I know, Dr. Zal said quietly. But the dreams are spreading, far away, in the ruins of what had once been human space. Something stirred in the darkness. Dr. Yeji Cho opened her eyes, though she wasn't sure if she still had eyes to open. The last thing she remembered was working in her laboratory on Earth when the erasure beam hit. She was studying quantum consciousness, trying to understand how thoughts and memories worked at the smallest level of reality. As the beam destroyed her body, her mind had somehow jumped into the quantum field itself. Now she existed as pure information scattered across the subspace frequencies. She was alive, but not in any way she understood. She was thought without a brain, memory without a body, and she was not alone. Hello, Yeji, a voice said in the quantum static. It was Mina, Park the scientist who had sung as humanity died. Mina, how are you here? I'm not sure, Mina's voice replied. When I sang that lullaby, something happened. My consciousness merged with the song itself. Now I exist wherever the song echoes. But the Vorthak erased everything. They erased our bodies and our physical records, Mina said. But they couldn't erase the quantum resonance of the song. It's still spreading through subspace, carrying pieces of human consciousness with it. Yeji began to understand. The lullaby is acting like a carrier wave. It's preserving fragments of our minds in the quantum foam. Exactly. And there are others. Captain Kim is here, though he's very weak. Officer Lim exists as scattered data patterns. Engineer Park's consciousness is mixed with the ship's computer systems. We're all here, Yeji. Broken and changed, but here. What can we do? We're just information now. We can remember, Mina said. And we can make others remember too. Meanwhile, on the Vorthak homeworld of Korthex, Supreme Leader Thane was not pleased. He sat on his throne of black crystal, reading reports from across the Empire. The strange dreams were spreading faster than any disease. How many are affected, he asked his advisor, General Mock. Nearly 10,000 soldiers and civilians, General Mock replied. The dreams always feature the same human female singing. But we destroyed that species completely. This should be impossible. Show me the quantum scans from the erasure, Thane ordered. The data appeared on a floating screen. Everything looked normal. Human DNA had been removed from all biological matter. Human technology had been deleted. Human memories had been wiped. From all alien minds, the erasure was complete. Wait, Thane said, studying the readings more carefully. What is this anomaly in the subspace frequencies? Unknown, Supreme Leader. It appeared during the final moments of the erasure. Some kind of quantum resonance pattern. Could it be related to the dreams? Possibly, but it's just background radiation now. Harmless quantum noise. Thane was not convinced. In his 10,000 years of life, he had never seen an erasure leave any trace behind. The Vorthak technology was perfect. It had to be perfect, or their entire way of life would collapse. The Vorthak Empire existed to remove suffering from the universe. They believed that life was pain and death was peace. By erasing species completely, they ended all possibility of future suffering for those beings. It was a mercy, they told themselves. But now something was making his people dream. And in those dreams, they saw the lives of the creatures they had tried to save from existence. They saw human families laughing together. They saw human children playing. They saw human couples holding hands under alien stars. Double the medical examinations, Thane ordered. I want to know why our people are dreaming of joy. Back in the quantum realm, Yeji was learning to navigate her new existence. She found that she could touch electronic systems, influence computer, networks, and even project her consciousness across vast distances. I can reach the Vorthak networks, she told Mina. Their technology is advanced, but it still runs on quantum processors. I might be able to affect their systems. Be careful, Mina warned. We don't want to hurt anyone. We just want them to remember. Remember what? We never met them before they destroyed us. Not us specifically, Mina explained. But they've erased 3,000 other species. All those civilizations, all those people, all those stories. The Vorthak buried those memories deep in their own minds to avoid feeling guilty. Yeji began to understand the plan. You want to wake up their suppressed memories. The lullaby isn't just carrying human consciousness, Mina said. It's resonating with the quantum echoes of every species they've ever erased. All those voices, all those songs, all those dreams, they're still out there in the quantum foam, waiting to be heard again. And when the Vorthak dream, they remember, Mina finished. They remember what they've done. They remember who they've erased, and maybe, just maybe, they'll remember who they used to be before they became destroyers. On a Vorthak military station orbiting a dead star, Soldier Kex woke up from another dream. But this time it wasn't just the human woman singing. This time he dreamed of tall blue beings with 4 arms who had built cities of living crystal, the Altarians, a species he had helped erase 200 years ago. In the dream, an Altarian child had given him a flower made of light. The child had smiled and called him friend. Kex had felt something he had never experienced before. Warmth in his chest, moisture in his eyes. He was crying. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, a Vorthak was remembering love. And across the Empire, as Mina's lullaby continued to spread through quantum space, more Vorthak began to dream. They dreamed of the Kalari and their songs of starlight. They dreamed of the Zunith and their paintings of wind and rain. They dreamed of the Morvani and their dances of celebration. They dreamed of all the beauty they had erased from the universe. And slowly, quietly, some of them began to weep. The Vorthak scientists worked day and night to find a solution. In their great laboratories on Cortex, they built new machines designed to clean memories from infected minds. The dream plague, as they called it, was spreading faster than they could control. Dr. Zal stood before the largest memory cleansing device ever created. It was 10 times more powerful than the erasure technology they used on other species. This should remove all traces of the foreign memories, she told Supreme. Leader Thane. It must work, Thane replied. His own dreams had started 3 days ago. He kept seeing a small human child who called him grandfather and tried to give him drawings made with colored paper. The dreams left him feeling strange and weak. The first test subject was Commander Vex. He lay on a metal table while the machine hummed above him. Energy beams focused on his brain, searching for the alien memories that didn't belong there. Beginning memory cleanse, Dr. Zal announced. The machine activated with a loud buzz. Vex screamed as the beams hit his mind. The energy tore through, his thoughts looking for anything that wasn't originally Vorthak, but something impossible happened. Instead of removing the dreams, the machine made them stronger. Vex sat up suddenly, his black eyes wide with terror and wonder. I remember them all, he whispered. The Altarians with their crystal cities, the Morvani who danced in the rain, the Kalari who sang to the stars. We killed them, we erased them, but they were beautiful. Dr. Zal quickly shut down the machine. That's not possible. The technology should have worked. The dreams aren't just in our minds, Vex said, tears streaming down his gray face. They're woven into reality itself. The human song changed something at the quantum level. It made memory itself stronger than erasure. Meanwhile, in the quantum realm, Yeji was discovering new abilities. She found that she could touch any electronic device in the galaxy. More importantly, she could influence the minds of beings who were already dreaming of humans. I'm making contact with individual Vorthak, she told Mina. The ones who are most affected by the dreams. I can speak to them directly. Be gentle, Mina advised. Remember, they're victims too. They've been taught that erasing species is mercy. They don't understand what they've really done. Yeji focused her consciousness and reached out across space. She found the mind of Engineer Kex, a Vorthak who had been having dreams for weeks. In his sleep, she appeared to him not as a threatening figure but as a teacher. Who are you? Kex asked in the dream. I'm Yeji Cho, she said. I was a human scientist. You helped erase my people. Kex expected to feel anger from her, but instead he sensed only sadness. I'm sorry, he said, though he didn't understand why he was apologizing. I know you are, Yeji replied. But sorry isn't enough anymore. You need to understand what you've done, not just to humans but to all the others. She showed him memories that weren't his own. He saw Altarian families teaching their children to grow crystal flowers. He watched Morvani artists painting with light and color. He heard Kalari composers creating symphonies that could heal broken hearts. They were alive, Kex whispered. They had families. They loved each other. Just like the Vorthak used to, Yeji said. What do you mean? Yeji reached deeper into his mind, past the military training and the Empire's teachings. She found memories that were buried so deep that Kex had forgotten they existed. Ancient Vorthak memories from before they became conquerors. Your people weren't always destroyers, she showed him. Long ago, the Vorthak were empaths. You could feel the emotions of other beings. You built a civilization based on understanding and caring. Kex saw flashes of his own species' forgotten past. Vorthak children playing together. Vorthak families sharing meals. Vorthak artists creating beautiful things instead of destroying them. What happened to us, he asked. Pain, Yeji replied. Your people felt so much suffering from other species that you couldn't handle it. So you found a way to cut yourselves off from empathy. You convinced yourselves that the only way to end suffering was to end existence itself. When Kex woke up, he was changed. The memories Yeji had shown him felt more real than his own life. He looked around his gray metal quarters and felt sick. Everything about his world seemed cold and empty. He wasn't alone. Across the Vorthak Empire, hundreds of soldiers and civilians were waking up with similar revelations. The quantum echoes of erased species were combining with their own buried memories to create something new. Guilt. For the first time in thousands of years, Vorthak were questioning their mission. On a military base near the edge of Vorthak space, Captain Rin gathered a group of soldiers who had been having the dreams. They met in secret, afraid that their commanders would send them for memory cleansing. I can't do this anymore, said Lieutenant Nex. Last night I dreamed of a Zunith mother singing to her baby. Right before we erased them, she looked at me and asked me to remember her child's name. I promised I would, but then we made her never exist. We were told it was mercy, Captain Rin said. We were ending their suffering. But they weren't suffering, replied Sergeant Dex. In the dreams I see them laughing, loving, hoping. They were happy. We destroyed happiness itself. The group fell silent. They were experiencing something no Vorthak had felt in millennia. Shame. Back in the quantum realm, Mina's consciousness network was growing stronger. She had found fragments of Captain Kim, Officer Lim, Engineer Park, and dozens of other humans. But she had also discovered something even more important. The quantum echoes go deeper than just humans, she told Yeji. Every species the Vorthak erased left traces in the quantum foam. All those civilizations, all those people, they're still here, waiting to be remembered. Can we bring them back? Not physically, but we can make them heard. The lullaby isn't just carrying human consciousness anymore. It's becoming a carrier wave for every erased species in the galaxy. As if to prove her point, new voices began to join the quantum network. Altarian harmonies blended with human melodies. Morvani rhythm dances echoed through subspace. Kalari star songs resonated across light years. The erased weren't gone. They were gathering, preparing to remind the universe that they had existed. On Korthek, Supreme Leader Thane was facing a crisis unlike anything in Vorthak history. Reports were coming in from every corner of the Empire. Soldiers were refusing orders. Civilians were asking questions about their past. Some were even requesting to visit the worlds they had helped erase, wanting to build memorials for species that officially never existed. "This is spreading beyond dreams," General Mock reported. "Some of our people are claiming they can see the erased species while awake. Holographic figures appearing in their quarters, on their ships, even in this very building." As if summoned by his words, the air in the throne room shimmered. A figure appeared, translucent but clearly visible. It was an elderly human man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Hello," the figure said in perfect Vorthak. "My name was Do-Yun Lee. I was a father and a teacher. Before you erased my people, I used to sing my daughter to sleep every night with the same lullaby that Dr. Park sang as she died." Thane stood up from his throne, his hands shaking. "You're not real. We destroyed you. You destroyed my body," Do-Yun replied. "But you cannot destroy love. You cannot erase the memory of a father's care for his child. And now, through Dr. Park's song, that love is spreading to all the species you tried to forget." More figures began to appear around the throne room. Altarians, Morvani, Kalari, Zunith, dozens of representatives from erased civilizations, all brought back as quantum projections by the growing power of Mina's lullaby. "We don't come for revenge," Do-Hyun said gently. "We come to remind you of who you used to be, before you became afraid of feeling, before you decided that the only way to end pain was to end existence. We were saving you from suffering," Thane whispered. "No," replied an Altarian child who stepped forward. "You were saving yourselves from having to feel our pain. But pain and joy are connected. When you stopped feeling our suffering, you also stopped feeling our love." The projections began to fade, but their message remained. Across the throne room, Vorthak guards were crying, actually crying, for the first time in their lives. The Empire of Erasure was beginning to remember how to feel. And in the quantum realm, Mina's lullaby grew stronger, carrying the voices of the forgotten back to a universe that was finally ready to listen. The lullaby was no longer contained within Vorthak space. Like ripples in a pond, Mina's song spread through the quantum frequencies that connected all corners of the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humans began to dream of a woman singing, in an unknown language. On the water world of Aquanus, the dolphin-like Satani suddenly stopped their daily routines. Elder Wave Song floated in the warm shallows, her large eyes closed as strange visions filled her mind. "I see them," she told her pod. "Beings who walked on two legs and created music with their voices. They're gone now, but their song remains." The Satani had never met humans, but somehow they understood the lullaby's meaning. It spoke of love between parent and child, of protection and comfort, of hope surviving in darkness. These were feelings that all living beings shared. "The song carries memories," Wavesong said, "not just of the two-legged ones, but of many species. They're all singing together now." Similar awakenings were happening across the galaxy. The rock people of Granitus felt tremors in their mountain homes as ancient memories stirred. The gas beings of Nebulos saw colors they had never seen before as forgotten civilizations painted their dreams with light. But it was the effect on the Vorthak Empire that caused the greatest upheaval. Captain Rin had gathered over 300 soldiers and civilians who refused to continue the erasure missions. They called themselves the Rememberers, and they met in secret on an abandoned mining station. "We can't be the only ones," Rin said to the crowd. "All across the Empire, our people are waking up from the lie we've been living." Lieutenant Nex stood up. "I served on 12 erasure missions, 12 entire civilizations that I helped remove from existence. The dreams show me what they were really like. They had art, music, love, hope. We didn't end their suffering. We ended their joy." "But what can we do?" asked Engineer Kex. "The Empire has existed for 10,000 years. The Supreme Leader will never change his mind." "Then we change it for him," Captain Rin replied. Meanwhile, in the quantum realm, Yeji was coordinating with consciousness networks from all the erased species. The Altarian quantum minds brought knowledge of crystal technology. The Morvani offered their understanding of energy manipulation. The Kalari contributed their mastery of harmonic frequencies. "We're becoming something new," Mina told her. "Not just human anymore, but a collective consciousness representing all erased life." "The Vorthak are starting to resist their own empire," Yeji reported. "But Supreme Leader Thane is planning something desperate. My sources inside their command network say he's preparing the ultimate erasure protocol." "What's that?" "A weapon that can erase concepts themselves from the universe. He's planning to remove the very idea of music, of art, of memory itself. If he succeeds, no one will even remember that these things existed." Mina felt a chill in her quantum consciousness. "We have to stop him." "How?" "We're just information, patterns. We can influence dreams and project images, but we can't physically interfere with their technology. Maybe we don't need to," Mina realized. "The Vorthak rememberers are our hands in the physical world. We need to help them act." On Cortex, Supreme Leader Thane stood before the most terrible weapon ever created. The concept eraser was a massive device that reached deep into the quantum foam of reality itself. It could remove not just objects or beings, but the very ideas that created them. "Once we activate this," he told Dr. Zal, "the concepts of memory, music, and art will cease to exist. No species will ever again be able to remember what we have done. The universe will return to the peaceful emptiness it was meant to have." "Supreme Leader," Dr. Zal said hesitantly, "are you certain this is necessary? Many of our people are beginning to question whether our mission is truly merciful." Thane's black eyes blazed with anger. "Our people have been infected by alien thoughts. Once those thoughts are erased, they will return to their proper purpose." But even as he spoke, more holographic figures were appearing throughout the city. Human families, Altarian artists, Morvani dancers, Kalari musicians, all the erased species were manifesting as quantum projections, telling their stories to any Vorthak who would listen. Young Vorthak who had never experienced emotion were weeping at the beauty of what their empire had destroyed. Old Vorthak were remembering their species' forgotten past as empaths and healers. The rebellion was spreading faster than Thane could contain it. "Begin the final countdown," he ordered. "In 1 hour, we will erase the concepts that are poisoning our people's minds." But Captain Rin and the Rememberers were already in motion. Guided by whispers from the quantum realm, they had infiltrated Cortex's defenses. 300 former Vorthak soldiers moved through the capital city, no longer seeking to destroy, but to preserve. "The concept eraser is heavily guarded," Kex reported through their communication devices. "We'll never reach it with force." "We don't need force," Rin replied. "We need truth." As the Rememberers approached the weapon facility, something extraordinary happened. The quantum projections of erased species began to manifest everywhere at once. Thousands of holographic figures filled the streets of Cortex. But these weren't just random appearances. The projections were organized, purposeful. They surrounded every Vorthak they encountered and began to sing. It started with Mina's Lullaby, but it quickly grew into something more. Altarian crystal harmonies joined human melodies. Morvani rhythm songs blended with Kalari star music. The voices of 3,000 erased civilizations rose together in a chorus that echoed through the quantum frequencies of space itself. The effect on the Vorthak was immediate and overwhelming. Soldiers dropped their weapons and wept. Citizens fell to their knees as suppressed memories of their own species' empathic past came flooding back. Even the guards around the concept eraser began to question their orders. "What's happening to us?" one guard asked his partner. "We're remembering," the other replied, tears streaming down his gray face. "We're remembering who we used to be before we became afraid of feeling." Supreme Leader Thane watched from his command center as his empire crumbled around him. But instead of surrender, he felt only rage. "Activate the weapon now," he screamed. "I don't care if the countdown isn't finished. Erase these concepts before they destroy everything we've built." Dr. Zal hesitated at the controls. Around her, Holographic children from a dozen different species were playing games and laughing. The sight filled her with a warmth she had never experienced. "I can't," she whispered. "Then I will," Thane snarled, pushing her aside. But as his hand reached for the activation switch, a small figure appeared directly in front of him. It was a human child, perhaps 5 years old, with bright eyes and a curious smile. "Hello, mister," the child said in perfect Vorthak. "My name was Suni. My daddy used to sing me the sleeping song every night. Would you like to hear it?" For a moment, Thane froze. In 10,000 years of existence, no one had ever called him mister in such an innocent, trusting way. No one had ever offered to sing to him. "You're not real," he said, but his voice was shaking. "I'm as real as love," little Suni replied. "I'm as real as the memory of a parent caring for their child. And that's something that can never be erased, no matter how hard you try." The child began to sing Mina's lullaby in her small, sweet voice. Around the command center, more children appeared. Altarian, Morvani, Kalari, human, and dozens of other species. All of them singing together. Thane's hand began to shake. The activation switch was right there, but he couldn't bring himself to press it. For the first time in millennia, the supreme leader of the Vorthak Empire was feeling something he had forgotten existed. Love. And outside, Captain Rin and the Rememberers were no longer fighting guards or breaking down doors. They were being welcomed by Vorthak, who had remembered their true nature as empaths and healers. The galaxy itself was awakening to the song of the erased, and nothing would ever be the same again. "Supreme Leader!" Thane's hand froze above the activation switch. Little Suni's voice filled the command center, singing the lullaby that had started everything. Around him, holographic children from every erased species continued their innocent song. "Make it stop," Thane whispered, but his voice held no anger anymore. "Only pain." "I can't stop," Suni said gently. "The song lives in the place where love lives, and love never dies even when bodies do." Thane fell to his knees as memories crashed through his mind like a flood. But these weren't the memories of erased species. These were his own memories, buried so deep he had forgotten they existed. He saw himself as a young Vorthak, before the Empire, before the erasures. His people had been different then. They could feel what others felt, share emotions across vast distances. They had built cities of harmony and peace. "We were empaths," he breathed. "Yes," said Dr. Zal, who was experiencing the same recovered memories. "We felt the pain of every living thing in the galaxy. It was too much, so we found a way to cut ourselves off from feeling anything at all. And then we decided that if we couldn't bear to feel suffering, no one should exist to suffer." Thane continued, understanding flooding through him. More Vorthak throughout the command center were falling to their knees as their true history returned to them. They had not always been destroyers. They had once been healers, artists, lovers of life. Fear of pain had turned them into dealers of death. In the quantum realm, Mina felt the moment of change rippling through reality itself. "It's working," she told Yeji in the growing network of consciousness. "The Vorthak are remembering who they really are." "But will it be enough?" Yeji asked. "The weapon is still active. Thane could still choose to erase the concepts of memory and music." "He won't," said a new voice in the quantum network. It was deep and ancient, carrying the weight of millennia. "I know because I am him." The consciousness that spoke was Thane, himself, but not the Thane who knelt in the command center. This was his original self, the young empath who had existed before fear changed everything. "My people made a terrible mistake," the ancient Thane consciousness said. "We thought the only way to end suffering was to end existence. But suffering and joy are connected. When we stopped feeling pain, we also stopped feeling love." "What do you need from us?" Mina asked. "Help me remember everything. Not just my people's past, but the memories of every species we erased. Let me feel what they felt. Let me carry their joy and their sorrow together." In the command center, Thane stood up slowly. His black eyes were now filled with tears that sparkled like stars. "Dr. Zal, can you reverse the polarity of the concept?" Eraser? Reverse it? That would be incredibly dangerous. Instead of erasing concepts, it would amplify them across the entire galaxy. Exactly, Thane said. Instead of removing memory and music and love from the universe, we're going to make them stronger than they've ever been. Dr. Zal stared at him. Supreme Leader, that could change the fundamental nature of reality itself. Good, Thane replied. It's time for the universe to remember what we made it forget. Throughout Cortex, the Vorthak Rememberers watched in amazement as their former Supreme Leader began working to transform his ultimate weapon into an instrument of restoration. Captain Rin and his followers no longer needed to fight. The Empire was changing itself from within. Begin the reversal process, Thane ordered. But first I need to do something I should have done long ago. He turned to the holographic projection of little Suni, who was still singing softly. I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry for what we did to you and your people. I'm sorry for forgetting that children like you deserve to exist, to grow up, to sing your songs. Suni smiled and reached out her small hand. Though she was only a quantum projection, Thane felt her touch as if she were real. It's okay, mister. Daddy always said that saying sorry is the first step to doing better. What was your daddy's name? Thane asked. Do-Yun Lee. He was a teacher, and he loved me very much. Thane nodded. I will remember his name. I will remember all their names. The concept eraser began its transformation. Instead of reaching into the quantum foam to destroy ideas, it now prepared to amplify them. The machine hummed with a different kind of energy, one that felt warm and alive. Activation in 60 seconds, Dr. Zal announced. Across the galaxy, every species that had been touched by Mina's lullaby felt something building. The Satani of Aquanus sang louder as they sensed the approaching wave of memory. The rock people of Granitus felt their mountain homes vibrating with ancient songs. The gas beings of Nebulos began to glow with colors that represented forgotten civilizations. 30 seconds, Dr. Zal called out. In the quantum realm, the consciousness networks of 3,000 erased species prepared for something unprecedented. Mina's lullaby had become the foundation for a vast chorus that included every song, every story, every dream that had ever existed. 10 seconds. Thane looked around the command center at his people, who were no longer the emotionless destroyers they had been that morning. They were crying, laughing, remembering, feeling. They were alive again in ways they had forgotten were possible. Activation. The wave of amplified consciousness exploded outward from Cortex at faster than light speed. It carried with it every memory that had ever been suppressed, every song that had ever been silenced, every love that had ever been forgotten. When the wave reached Earth's former location, something miraculous happened. For exactly 7 minutes and 34 seconds, the planet existed again. Not physically, but as pure memory and emotion. Every human who had ever lived was there, singing together in perfect harmony. Mina Park stood in a field of quantum flowers, no longer just a consciousness pattern, but somehow whole again. Around her were billions of humans, all existing in that perfect moment of remembered love. We did it, Captain Kim said, appearing beside her. We saved them all. Not just humans, Mina replied, gesturing to the vast crowd that stretched beyond the horizon. Altarians, Morvani, Kalari, Zunith, and thousands of other species were there too, all singing the universal song of existence. The restoration wave continued across the galaxy, touching every world, every civilization. For those brief minutes, the universe remembered everything it had lost. Species that had been extinct for millions of years walked again in the realm of pure consciousness. Civilizations that had been erased by the Vorthak stood proud and strong in the quantum echo of memory. When the wave finally faded, the physical restoration ended. Earth remained erased, humanity remained dead. The 3,000 civilizations remained gone from the physical universe. But something permanent had changed. Every species in the galaxy now carried the memories of the erased within their own consciousness. The Satani would forever remember human lullabies. The rock people would carry Altarian crystal songs in their stone hearts. The gas beings would paint their skies with Morvani colors. On Corthex, the Vorthak Empire officially dissolved itself. Thane, now calling himself simply Teacher, established the Archive of Memory. Former erasure ships became traveling libraries, visiting worlds to collect and preserve the stories of all living beings. Dr. Zal became the first director of empathic research, working to help her people reconnect with their natural ability to feel what others feel. Captain Rin founded the Rememberer Corps, dedicated to ensuring that no civilization would ever be forgotten again. Engineer Kex opened schools throughout former Vorthak space, teaching young beings of all species to create art, music, and literature. His first lesson was always the same: a simple Korean lullaby about children sleeping safely while their parents watched over them. In the quantum realm, Mina's consciousness network became something new. No longer just the echoes of erased species, they were now the guardians of universal memory. Whenever a civilization faced extinction, whenever a people were threatened with being forgotten, the quantum voices would whisper their songs into willing minds. Years passed. The galaxy changed. New species evolved. New civilizations rose. But always there was music. There were lullabies sung by parents to children. There were songs of hope in dark times. There were memories preserved in melody and rhythm. On a small world at the edge of what had once been Vorthak space, a young creature of a species that had never known war or erasure sat by her parents' side as night fell. "Tell me a story," the child asked. "I'll tell you about the humans," her parent replied. "They were erased from the stars, but their lullaby still echoes in our dreams. They taught the universe that love is stronger than fear, that memory is more powerful than forgetting, and that no song truly ends as long as someone remembers the melody." And somewhere in the quantum foam that connects all things, Mina Park smiled and began to sing.